Michelle had her whole life ahead of her: travels, study, and a typical teenage social life.
I had uni, I was working, I was going out with friends during the day, spending time with my family, just normal things.
But now Michelle Georges is confined to a wheelchair, unable to walk after receiving her first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine on April the 2nd, a decision which changed her whole life.
So I was fine on the day. I just had like a sore arm and a bit of a headache, but that was about it. The next day, April 3rd, in the morning when I woke up, I fainted, and so that's when everything started. Shaking, I couldn't balance, and I just couldn't coordinate my movements properly.
The once healthy teen knew there was a link to the vaccine, but doctors were quick to deny that.
But with this experience, we've noticed that as soon as we mention vaccine, it's like a completely changed demeanor. Like, they're all so hostile, they're so angry, they just want to, make you quiet. They're just like, no, it's not related. They were very adamant that it was unrelated to the vaccine and that it was some sort of mental health issue instead. So they got me to speak to psychiatrists and all that. They suggested all sorts of things like stress from my degree, or like lack of affection from my family, or worries about growing up, all sorts of crazy things that they told me that could be the cause of my problems.
After being discharged from 2 hospitals still in terrible condition, Michelle was finally transferred to an inpatient rehab where she spent the next 2 months undergoing intense therapy. Step by step, day by day, Michelle is returning to a somewhat normal, but doctors say it could take years. If you knew what you know now, would you have taken it?
No, definitely not. I went into taking that vaccine not knowing anything was going to happen. I didn't expect for anything to happen, but it did happen. And at the same time, I have lots of friends who have taken the vaccine, both doses, and they're completely fine. So reactions are super unexpected. They're very individual to you, and I don't think there's anything you can do to actively prevent something from happening.
She's not alone. Thousands of people around the world have had their immune system attack nerve cells after the vaccine, causing inflammation, numbness, muscle weakness, and difficulty in walking. Although it's a long recovery, Michelle is lucky to be alive. But for the Garron family, memories are now all they have. They're still coming to terms with the death of a caring husband and a loving father. Robert Garron was just 52 when he died of a massive heart attack, just 1 week after receiving the Pfizer vaccine. With no prior health conditions, the family are baffled, now wanting answers.
Yeah, the Monday before he got vaccinated, he was, like, my daughter videoed him just twerking and dancing around the kitchen, full of life, totally, like, nothing wrong with him whatsoever.
When I do my dance, money fight, these niggas on my bands. JC, I ain't playing. Little bitch, I don't want your man.
It was Tuesday the 20th of July when he received the jab. 48 hours later, his health started deteriorating. First, the heavy coughing, then completely bedridden.
He didn't have any energy. He couldn't walk very far. He'd have to, like, sit down because he was just really kind of like that. He was sleeping a lot. He was mostly complaining that he was having trouble getting breath in and having trouble breathing. And he went from being completely healthy one day to, by the end of the week and the following week, like, very sick and couldn't breathe and gone.
Was kind of missing, but he was here, but he just wasn't here.
Yeah. Because
he was just always sleeping, always lying down.
Exactly 8 days after the jab, this family's worst nightmare played out.
As I was talking to the operator, he was sitting on the stool and he started collapsing off the stool and he said, I'm going down, and then he collapsed on the floor.
Once paramedics arrived, it was too late.
They said he's just got a flat line, and they said there's nothing else that we can do for him. We can't take him to the hospital, he's already gone. I just said to the paramedics, I said, are you sure? I think you need to go back in there and keep trying. Like, can you just go and... Yeah, I just kept saying, can you just go and keep trying?
quite odd for you both, since your dad's, he was
Well,
quite healthy?
I didn't think much of it at first. I thought it was just another, like, he was just sick and he was just resting. I didn't know how, like, serious it was. Yeah, we didn't know how, like it was actually real and happening. We thought he was just gonna come back, but he didn't.
The vaccination was not considered a possible link. Instead, the autopsy showing sudden onset myocarditis. This didn't sit well with the family, questioning whether there's more than meets the eye. Studies have shown people who have received the mRNA COVID vaccines can develop myocarditis just days after taking the jab, often younger men and shortly after the second dose of the vaccine.
There's adverse reactions. Everybody's having different things, and it's not well publicised. You have to literally go and find it yourself.
So far, almost 6.3 million Australians are now fully vaccinated. By December, the federal government aimed to have 80% of the population receive the jab under Operation COVID Shield. But a massive vaccination push could see more and more people suffering adverse reactions, which up until now has been kept quiet. Luckily, families are speaking out. Shana's 69-year-old mother, Michelle, changed completely after her first dose of the vaccine.
And from that point on, Mum's cognitive ability and physiological ability symptoms just decreased rapidly. So she was no longer able to email. She was struggling to talk when I called her. I was trying to call her every day, but she was struggling to be able to get sentences out. She could no longer walk around, go to the toilet, so she was having to wear nappies all of a sudden. So it was quite a full-on decline.
She believes she should have never been given the vaccine, knowing her prior health conditions.
The risk of tiny little blood clots is something that people are talking about as being a possible adverse reaction. So someone like my mother, who has blood clotting in our family, we've actually got a genetic blood clotting disorder in our family called factor V Leiden. So she should never have had the vaccine.
Thousands of kilometres away, Shana felt helpless.
I actually just didn't believe that they would give her the second dose to a woman that was so unwell. And I said, "How did that happen?" And she said, "Oh, they came to the door. I said no. They came in to give it to me. I said no. That they stood at the door for a while, and they discussed it amongst themselves, and then they just came in and administered the vaccine anyway."
Sadly, 5 weeks later, she passed away. So far this year, the Therapeutic Goods Administration have reported more than 350 deaths following the COVID vaccine and close to 41,000 adverse reactions related to the vaccine. Despite all these numbers, not one has been reported on mainstream media. Instead, the media and the government continue to push their agenda, ensuring as many Australians get vaccinated as possible. Our Prime Minister Scott Morrison even suggesting greater freedoms for those who have been vaccinated and different arrangements for those who haven't. Around the world, millions are speaking up against the vaccines, vaccine passports and lockdowns, which have essentially caused a global economic meltdown. But they are being dismissed as anti-vaxxers and conspiracy theorists. For the families that have lost someone or have had lifelong disabilities after the vaccine, their voices are slowly being heard. A once active woman also desperate to share her story, but would rather remain anonymous. She ended up in a coma for 3 weeks shortly after her AstraZeneca vaccine dose. This left her with severe brain swelling, having to learn how to walk, talk and write all over again.
I mean, why are you sharing your story? What's the main reason why you're sharing your story?
For people to be aware of what can happen to them, the adverse reaction. It's not all roses like they make it out, okay? There is thorns also, and we've heard of that, and there is more deaths, and there is more complications than you ever think. Like,
people have turned to Facebook to share their stories and experiences, with one group reaching almost 65,000 members. It was removed overnight for no apparent reason. Facebook is reportedly trying to silence COVID-19 vaccine skeptics, censoring all content related.
I want people to be aware that even a healthy person can have what looks like a massive reaction to vaccinations, and I don't think that anybody's really educating people on how severe reactions can be and how random reactions can be. You don't even have to have an underlying health condition to worry.
But I think it is a shame that the government and everyone has taken such a big, responsibility to completely dismiss it. I feel like they should take action, and if people feel like the government should acknowledge it, instead of just going out and saying it's a completely safe vaccine, it's completely safe, everyone take it.
When there is the television on and there is Scott Morrison or Gladysberry Chickley, I just tune off because I know what COVID, like the vaccine, has done to me. So there is a lot out there that's not being said.